Hello everyone, how are you today? Today we have a Martin 1954 D18, I believe. It's had a rough life. Not as rough as some I've seen, but it definitely could use some love. It's got some custom inlays there. I'm assuming the owner is not original in this case and would like those removed. And we'll probably fill those with a dyed epoxy, a marine epoxy, with some trans tint dyes, which is a nice trick to know. You can come pretty close to the color of the fingerboard and make them almost invisible. We got the typical Martin cracks going on here, one on the outside edge, and of course the one near the bridge, near the high E string as well. The pickguards, they shrink over time and pull everything inward, and that crack occurs. It's had some finish touch-ups, quote unquote, at least to seal the wood anyway. And the neck has been reset before in the past. It looks like some moisture damage there, some buckle damage there that's been touched up. Yeah, looks like some heat damage there. The finish on the neck has been sanded off and restained and not relacquered, however. Now we need to check the neck angle and lay the straight edge on top of the frets and bring the end there to the ebony part of the bridge. It should not be bumping into the front of the bridge. It should be hovering above. As far as the neck goes, it's not terrible. It has a T-bar in there. It doesn't have a truss rod. There is some fret wear, and we'll need to level those frets. We'll start out with heating off the upper fingerboard from the face of the instrument. I'll be using a food lamp to do this. I've had that rig 25 years. It's still going. It's an old desk lamp that I modified for my devious purposes. A few minutes later, it's time to check that. I'm going to use my Harbor Freight infrared thermometer, which works pretty good for 20 bucks. I'm shooting for a temperature of about 230, 250 degrees. That seems to be the magic range. I'm going to use my cake maker's spatula, which I got at a yard sale, made in the USA. Premium spring steel. You really can't find stuff like that anymore. I've had this tool for as long as I can remember, which has been many, many years, at least 30 years. And it's just perfect size and for the job. Next, I'm going to remove the fret above the dovetail joint. There is a gap underneath that fret. And I will drill 2 holes. One hole for the steam to go in and one for the steam to go out. Now remember, there's a T-bar in there that extends into the dovetail, and we want to make sure that we don't drill into it, but we also want to make sure that we drill into the dovetail joint as well. When I remove the fret, I tape it to the face in the same orientation in which I took it out. My steamer is a cappuccino maker. It has a valve on it which is used to froth up the milk. In this case, I put a high heat automotive hose on it with a needle on the end. I got this one from Stumac many years ago. I'm still using it. And you can see the steam can escape from the second hole. We don't want to create a bomb. I think one thing I'll try in the order in which I do things, I think I might try on the next reset I do, is doing this part first before I loosen the upper fingerboard. That way it'll keep the steam from shooting out the sides and creating a blush on the finish from the steam. Try as one might. With the rags, we try to keep it dry and keep wiping it off. It may take a couple of times treatments of steam. I just don't leave it in there. I give it a little dose to start it off, let it sit for a few minutes, let the moisture do its thing. Wiggle it around a little bit. There's a little bit of motion, but I think we'll need to shoot some more steam in there. The blushing should actually disappear over time. Nonetheless, I think I will try steaming the neck before I loosen the upper fingerboard next time. See how that works out. I'll get the bulk of the steam in there, get it started, and then switch over and loosen the upper fingerboard, and then go back with my steam and steam it again, so I don't have to do quite so much damage to the sides of the fingerboard there with it. It will disappear. In this case it did. Okay. Cat scratch fever. Being serenaded today. One more dose of steam. You can see it shooting out of the second hole, so we don't create a bomb. Move it to one side, move to the other, give it a wiggle, let that steam really work its way into the little nooks and crannies. I'm going to guess that there will be some shims in there. We need that steam to get in there and work its way around them and soften up that hide glue. We're getting more motion, downward pressure. You can feel it moving a little more, a little bit more. We're getting a lot of motion. It's about ready to come off. There we go. Oh, what a mess. It looks like last time it was reset, someone took a big chunk out of the spruce underneath the fingerboard there and didn't do anything about it. We're going to have to do something about that. And we have a shim on one side, which is interesting. And as I looked at it, the dovetail is actually off center, and that's probably why they put a shim on one side to move the neck on the center line. Yeah. It looks like they used like tight bond type of glue before. It's a little more rubbery when you heat it up. We'll do an initial removal of the glue while it's still soft and wet, and we're going to let this sit a couple days and let it normalize and dry out, and finish the rest of the cleanup. But with the big chunks and blobs, it's a good idea to make an effort to get some of that out of there before it dries hard and is much more difficult to chisel out. Okay, it's been a couple of days and then the neck has dried out and stabilized, as well as the body. And we're going to continue on with doing some fine tuning of glue removal. My handy dandy piece of glass with 80 grit and 220 grit. It's common practice to remove material from the inside of the heel. Just dig all the schmutz out of there as well, but create a little V-shaped ledge. You want to be careful not to get too close to the outside. A good sharp chisel is helpful with that. This is what I've been doing in recent years. I've tried the sanding belt strip method of putting the neck in the joint and putting the sandpaper underneath the heel and pulling. Find it rather awkward. This accomplishes the same thing. I put a little tape on the bottom so I don't remove any material from the pivot point, which is at the underneath the upper fingerboard where it meets the body. And I can I can favor certain areas a little bit, especially the end of the heel, because that's where I want the most material removed from in order to change the angle of the neck to pitch it backwards. It works really well. It's worked really well for me. Just a piece of scrap and some 80 grit. Self-stick. So, once a few years ago, I found an old upright player piano and did a little in a in the dumpster. So I did a little dumpster diving, and I was able to salvage this over 100-year-old, maybe more, big chunk of spruce. We use it for braces and whatever. It's well seasoned. I just need a little chunk. We're going to replace that chunk of damaged area underneath the fingerboard there. So we have a nice level surface in which to re-glue the fingerboard to the face. I just need to take out a little section there, so I'm going to use a template. I think it's for a battery box, but it's pretty close to the size I need. And we're going to splice in that new piece of spruce we just cut up. Stumac sells these lovely little routing bits. They come in two lengths. They have a ball bearing right on the shaft there, and I've been finding them quite useful. It was.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a lot. It's what I can do when I change this from nothing is because it's just awful. I've had one issue pop up here, so it's
Next, it's time to clear out all the glue and abalone and schmutz from the inlays here. We're going to mix up a batch of dyed marine epoxy. I like to use Trans Tints or Stu-Mac. I think they're made in the same place. I think probably medium brown works pretty good for this, for rosewood. So we'll mix up a little batch of that and fill these up, and fill them up and sand them flush. As I apply the epoxy, I like to try to work out the bubbles using a heat gun. It increases the viscosity of the epoxy and allows the bubbles to rise to the top. Whereupon I can scrape them, sand them, file them, flush, and have a minimum of bubbles. Not completely invisible, but looks a lot better than it did before. Now it's the next day. We're going to, I have filled the little voids and whatnot left over. We're going to finish leveling off that repair to the upper fingerboard area on the top. I'm rubbing a little bit of True Oil into that area there. My goal here is not to completely restore the instrument and repair all the finish and whatnot. It's 70 years old, so, but that'll give it a little protection from moisture and whatnot. Now, as I mentioned before, that dovetail is not centered, is it? Alright, we're going to have to make a shim. And the shim is going to need to be tapered on 2 planes. I'll start with the first plane. Now that'll move the whole neck over to the center line as I put it back into the joint, which is why I think they had just one shim in there when we originally took it off, to compensate for that. And before we get ready to glue the neck back on, we need to do a little fret leveling here. These upper frets popped up a little bit, perhaps from the heat process, which is to be expected. I think we're going to remove these, clean out the slots. And put the frets back in. But first we're going to fill those little steam holes first with some toothpick. Little super glue. They make super glue in black, you know. Wonderful. Clean off the schmutz from the frets, making sure to keep them, remember how it was oriented before I took it out, so that the tangs, the teeth and the frets match up with the originals. Put a little radius back in. I like to apply a little bit of fish glue. And tap them back in. I've leveled the frets and now recrowning the bead. now it's time to glue that puppy back on there. I'm using some cold fish glue. It's my antique ice hammer with a little bit of leather glued to the face. Another yard sale gem. Check it. Okay, we're going to check it for the center line alignment here. You see that there's equal distance between the bridge pin holes so that the strings are equally spaced on the surface of the neck when we put them back on. And double check the angle itself. We have a little bit of a clearance as we had hoped for. Looking good. smoke from a nitro finish. Now, if you want to remove smoke, and try a little vinegar. Nitro is very porous in that it can really, over the years, 70 years of smoke, bar smoke, pot smoke, sweat, beer, whiskey. I tried a product called Deglugu. It smells a lot like vinegar, and so I thought to myself, well, why not try vinegar? As you can see, it works very, very well. After that, I chase it with some regular hand compound there, give it a polish up. And after this, we're going to string it up and ship it out. If you're still here watching, congratulations, you're a member of the Guitar Repair Nerd Club. Like, subscribe, comment, drop me a line. I'll say hello. God bless. Have a great day.